Good morning, afternoon, good evening, good night. I'm filming this on April 16th, 2025. Today we're going to be talking about the book Does My Body Offend You by Myra Suevas and Marie Marquette. Here is a picture of the book so that you can see that on the back, two different girls, two different lives, one fierce revolution. Pretty cool. Lots of ideas here where you can't judge a book by its cover, but you should judge a book by its cover. Although we're going to talk about that towards the end. All right, so let's talk about the book itself first. So why should you teach this book? It's super topical. A lot of it has to do with the dress code as well as behavior issues that have happened around schools based on cultural misunderstandings. As we all know, dress codes have been a hot topic of debate over the last probably about decade, where people are saying, no, you shouldn't care what students wear to school because you're sexualizing students when you're saying things like no shoulders or no crop tops or things of that nature. Or students must wear a bra and you're sexualizing the students. So that's something I'm going to leave my personal opinion about completely out of, other than the fact that it exists. And there have been changes made in the school that some people agree with and some people disagree with, and my personal opinion here doesn't actually matter. But I will say students will care about this. If you're at a school with a dress code, like for example, I plan on teaching in the Buffalo Public Schools, and there are some schools there that have just a regular dress code that basically you have to follow the laws, certain things have to be covered XYZ. But there is at least one school, it's the school closest to my home, where students are actually required to wear a uniform of a blue or white polo with either navy blue or khaki pants. And I could see students in seventh and eighth grade at that school being very interested in this book. Um, this book is going to help the students understand that their voices are important, very important, and it's going to be used to meet ELA and SEL standards while also teaching about intersectionality. Because, yeah, the dress code doesn't just affect people who are not white. It affects everybody. White women, white men, every race, everybody's going to be affected. We're going to talk about potentially religion, for example, like a person not being able to wear a head covering if they're Sikh or Muslim or something of those nature. Lots of stuff you can actually teach about that, and you can tie it into some social studies curriculum about why things are like that. Student focus. So what we can do for the students, we can focus on how community helps things happen. For example, I could have an assignment where I have the class split up into 4 or 5 groups, and they become a group that wants to do XYZ thing to improve the school, have them present on it. Maybe if it's a good enough idea, we have them present to the school and be like, hey, what if we do? You want to focus on who the people are. So it's two girls in here. You want to focus on how it's two girls in here mainly, but how they get help from a guy, and how focus on the oppressed oppressor relationships. Oddly, I actually would teach this alongside the Diary of Anne Frank, and the reason for that is because I would teach that there's that type of relationship between oppressed and oppressors and that type of book that you can do. And I would then teach this to show that there's other types of relationships between oppressed and oppressors and that you always have to fight back and you always have to do what you need to do to make sure that the oppressed oppressors. A couple of other assignments that I could potentially do on that is have each student come up with an idea that they're passionate about, whether it's in school or out of school, so that way that student can have something they're passionate about, and I could scaffold that into their final research paper, which would be actually something really cool. We're going to start by reading this book, then I'm going to have you come up with an idea you're passionate about. Okay, then I'm going to have you come up with a research paper and a plan on how to fix that. Either do a research paper or a persuasive paper, something along those lines. Now, my personal reflection, I was bored because this is not the type of book I like to read, and I didn't think I was going to be bored. Two different girls, two different lives, one fierce revolution. I genuinely thought this was going to be like The Hunger Games, which is the type of book that I like to read. Um, I did get through it, but I found that I needed to stop more often than not, and I found the message in the book were very important, and that did bring me back to the book each time. So there would be times where I wouldn't want to read the book, but I would, and it wasn't because it was for an assignment, it was because I knew that the book needed to be read, because I needed the message, and it was very important to me. Now, the fact that I was bored reading the book is not a problem with the book. And it also is very important that as a future teacher, I can go through with the books that I'm bored of and actually go ahead and take and read them, which is absolutely important to us. Because that also can help me deal with students who are going to be bored. I do believe that a lot of students would actually be bored by this book. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the books we select in ELA are boring to students, and that's why we have to make them relatable. And I think there is a way to make this relatable in a school that has a dress code or a uniform. But since I'm going to be in Buffalo, it's probably more so that I'm probably not gonna be able to use this in a area where it'll be super important for the dress code stuff, but it'll be important for the idea of you can make change and here's how. So I would still probably teach this, or at least some excerpts from it in Buffalo, so that way I can at least have some of that. Anyway, thank you once again. That's "Does My Body Offend You" by Myra Cuevas and Marie Marquand. I'm Samantha Pond. You're going to be seeing me a lot probably around campus because of things, but other than that, everything's great.